Hello, everyone. I am Dungeon Master Andrew with Nat40 Games, and I'm going to have a little chat about Vecna. Vecna is a villain that goes all the way back to the very beginnings of Dungeons & Dragons 50 years ago, with the hand and eye of Vecna appearing in the original source books. I can't remember exactly which one, as artifact items that are very dangerous to use with lots of power. I first heard the name, like I bet many people did, watching Stranger Things and Critical Role. Specifically Critical Role Season 1, where that was the big bad at the end of the campaign as he ascended to godhood, and of course the heroes of Vox Machina went and took care of that. When I started running my own D&D games, it started off with a home game, with just my wife and I playing, and it started off with a really great homebrew plot, and then I transitioned it into Curse of Strahd. And we had a really good time playing Curse of Strahd together, spooky horror times, killing lots of monsters, bringing the light to a cursed land, and we continued playing with that same party of characters for years afterwards. And as we left Curse of Strahd, she had returned the Sun Sword to the ghost of Sergei, and returned the holy symbol of Ravenkind to one of the priests still remaining in Barovia. But she took the tomb of Strahd with her back to Faerun, where the party had originally come. And then I did something to make the next stage of the campaign happen. I cursed the book, the Tomb of Strahd, even further, and I turned it into Vecna's book, coming from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Oh, what was it called here? Here we go. The Book of Vile Darkness. That's what I turned it into. And it began whispering to her. And despite all of her efforts to hide it or dispose of it or bind it in silver, it would always come right up, open as she rested. And so I dropped some hints about going somewhere where someone could have a look at this book for her, and I pulled out my copy of Candlekeep Mysteries, and she went down over to Candlekeep and used the book to gain entry into Candlekeep, being like, "You don't have one of these?" And they're like, "No, we don't." And they started dealing with it. They examined it. A few of the scholars of Candlekeep were instantly killed trying to use legend lore and other things upon the book. The problems that this book was causing were starting to mount up, and so she continued to research, and within the halls of Candlekeep she found information about Vecna, and she was able to connect the dots and see that Vecna's influence was indeed happening to this book, and through the book, to her. She researched more about Vecna, and she went on a couple of the adventures within the Candlekeep Mysteries book, which was super fun. I love tying modules together. And that's what I did. She found out that the Hand of Vecna was currently held by Archon the Cruel within his tower in Avernus, the first layer of the Hells. So I said, "All right, you're going to go to Hell?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're going to go to Hell." So we went to Hell, into Avernus, and the first thing she did was get into a battle with a whole bunch of people on demon grinders and other infernal machines, and she wanted one so bad. So the first few didn't survive the battles, but eventually she was able to claim a demon grinder and have a jolly old adventure in Hell, leading to Archon's Tower, where she did battle with the Dragonborn Paladin of Tiamat and his minions, coming forth with the Hand of Vecna. That was brutal conflict in the depths of Hell. And then she got the attention of Zariel as she was doing that, so I sort of ran a little mini arc in there where Zariel, she retrieved the sword and redeemed Zariel and had to fight her way out of Hell. It was absolutely fantastic. So they got out of Hell. with the hand. And they're like, all right, we need to destroy this hand. But they couldn't. They needed the eye, too. And so I let her research where the eye could be. And while there was no existing lore about where exactly the eye could be, I decided to pull out another campaign book, Tomb of Annihilation, where Acerak was a disciple of Vecna, and he had the eye. And so, she traveled to Port Nyanzaru in Chult, and she rode some dinosaurs into the jungle, fought along against a whole bunch of terrors from that place, finding lots of cool stuff along the way, and eventually making it into the Forgotten City and the Tomb of the Nine Gods. And running this module is what made me love dungeon crawls that are puzzle and technical, and it really helped me grow as a dungeon master. And of course, as she plunged into the depths of the Tomb of the Nine Gods, she found all the cool stuff in there, lots of very close brushes with death. At this point, she was level 14 or so over-leveled for the campaign as written, but just having so much fun blasting through it. She clears out that dungeon, gets the Eye of Vecna, and then she has both. But there's a problem. She can't destroy them. Not with anything that she currently carries. And so she goes back to Candlekeep and does more research about what could be done to destroy these things. And of course, she needs a sword. The Sword of Cass. And where's the Sword of Cass? In Barovia. Back in time. Before it was cursed. And so I took my Curse of Strahd book and I rewrote it entirely, taking all of the locations and reimagining them as locations in a beautiful, verdant, peaceful country before the Curse of Strahd had enacted and plunged it into darkness, describing a wonderful community, rich, lush farmland, people working together in a harmonious way while darkness was looming. That was a really fun mission. And of course, I had worked it in that Vecna himself, with Cass as his lieutenant, was working for Strahd in the castle during the pre-curse days in order to weave in some of that darkness, which is how he had the connection to the book in the first place. And I had totally let them invent time travel, because in the Candlekeep Mysteries book and in the original Curse of Strahd book, there are many tombs. And one of the tombs inside of Curse of Strahd, I believe it's number 40, is the tomb of a time traveler named Katsuki. And that's where she found a gun with silver bullets and an ornithopter and some other cool stuff. And so, when she went back to Candlekeep, who was the artificer in charge of making cool shit in Candlekeep? Katsuki. I made him the time traveler. And he had theories and ideas, and he had come forth from forward in time to bring her back. So that was a super cool adventure as well. So they had the Sword of Cass. After defeating the things in there in the pre-Curse of Strahd, they also defeated a human Strahd. I had made a super interesting encounter where I had rebuilt Strahd's stat block as the height of his power as a human king, essentially. 14 levels of wizard and 20 levels of fighter smashed together into an absolutely deadly combatant with his generals and soldiers with him. And that was a super intense battle. They ended up hitting him with Feeble Mind and sticking him in a demi-plane while the caretaker of the Amber Temple would take stewardship over him. That was cool. So in a parallel timeline, Barovia was never cursed in this campaign. And then they went forth. They went back to the Prime Material Plane to try to destroy the hand and eye of Vecna using the Sword of Cass. And they did. They laid it down upon an anvil, and with the sword, they destroyed them both, ending the threat of Vecna. Or so she thought, because destroying the eye and the hand only revealed to her the destination which she needed to travel to in order to find the phylactery, the true essence of a lich. And so, where did she have to go? Into the ancient dwarven hold of Gauntlegrim, a haunted, deep place. And so I pulled out my Out of the Abyss campaign book, and she traveled to Menzoberranzan in order to get the keys to the Vault of Gauntlegrim, because I was just tying everything together like that. She had communed with King Brunor Battlehammer in order to get permission to plunge into his ancestral home, drawing from the plots from the old Drizzt novels and the plot of Out of the Abyss. She went forth into the Underdark, and she helped a drow daughter stage a coup against the matron mother of Menzoberranzan, and in doing so made a staunch ally with Gromf Banere, the archmage of Menzoberranzan, which granted her many things, including the keys to the Vault of Gauntlegrim. And then she went forth to Gauntlegrim itself, and I had come up with an amazing, deadly dungeon crawl for that place that was so much fun to fight through. The vaults of Gauntlegrim, as I envisioned them, was a massive swirl of serpents, as Cotils had been petrified into place, and the key to unlocking the vault was a wish to restore all of them simultaneously, because if only one of them was restored and the rest were not, the gate to the vault would be sealed forever. And so, she opened that up, and she looted some cool stuff, and she found the phylactery of Vecna, which she was then able to destroy, again with the Sword of Cass. And that game continued on. From there, we had transitioned into Wild Beyond the Witchlight, where we had gone back in time to when her characters were much younger and they had gotten enrobed into the Witchlight. And considering we were nearing level 20 at this point, it was fun to rewind the clock and bring the characters back to level 1 and go through a fun, happy, little spooky adventure in the Witchlight. And then, after about 2 months of running that, she had completed that, and I had ran a reworking of that campaign again for her adult self, where Baba Yaga and Grazit were causing shit in the Palace of Heart's Desire, and the Fey minions of them wanted Fury out of the way, but Tasha had needed help once again. And so I reimagined the environments from Wild Beyond the Witchlight once more. The swamps were blasted by sun and dried up to a barren desert. The forest was plunged into eternal darkness as the sun was taken from that area and pushed way too close down to the ground in the swamps, causing darkness and too much light. And the forest was overseen by the now ancient green dragon that was the little bitty whelpling that was in that area beforehand. And the mountains were a massive wall of impassable ice filled with mind flayers. And the Palace of Heart's Desire filled with demons and dark fae. That was super fun to go through. And now, with this campaign looming, this new published campaign, I am very much looking forward to running it. I'm currently running 6 campaigns. Monday night is an Exandria campaign. Wednesday night is Icewind Dale. Thursday night is Planescape, Turn of Fortune's Wheel. Friday night is Fendelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk. Saturday night is another Curse of Strahd campaign. And then our home game just goes in whenever we can. And depending on which one of those campaigns wraps up first, when this campaign rolls around, that is going to determine when I'm running this and for who. But either way, it is going to be an epic run through. A campaign starting at level 10. I'm going to be able to take some of this and use some of my previous things, weave it all together, and we're going to have a really fun time with this. Already pre-ordered it at my local game store. Day 1, gonna pick it up. Alternate art cover. Looking forward to it. 10 out of 10 already.